Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Get Geek podcast, where we celebrate geek, nerd, and pop culture. Each week, we deliver the best analysis for fans, by fans, on anything related to movies, TV, video games, comics, anime, and manga. We talk geek. And now, here's the Get Geek podcast.
All right. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Get Geek podcast. What is going on? We have a good conversation for y'all this week, and we're going to jump right into introductions. We're a little short-handed this week, but I'm here. It's Jose.
And this is Wolfie.
And the cross-gen crew, Walt and AJ and Eli, are unfortunately unable to join us this week for a very fun conversation we're going to have. But first, the very, very quick disclaimers. Y'all know we're recording remotely. We don't even have to really talk about that. Sound issues and artifacts, let us know. But the best way and the most important way that you can support your favorite podcast crew, the Get Geek podcast, is to like, rate, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Check out all our social media and follow all our social media at Get Geek Podcast on Instagram. Comment on our social media and let us know what you think about the episodes, about the content, about the geek stuff that's out there, about everything geek, all things geek. So yeah, what's going on, Wolfie? How you doing, man?
I'm all right. Like eating a little bit of mango right now, but you know, I am recovering from a cold, verified cold, since I tested 3 times this week for COVID and all came back negative. So I guess I just got like a summer cold that seems to be going around, but I'm all better now, I feel like. But other than that, I'm geeking out over, what was it? It was friend of the podcast who just dropped. He just shipped Madden 22. John R. Diaz from Electronic Arts. He's got his own thing going with podcast Out of Play Area, and he's been a guest on this podcast before. And he just shipped another title, first title that he shipped since his involvement in Grand Theft Auto 5. So, congratulations, dude.
Yeah, man. He was working on Madden 22. That's pretty awesome. Madden NFL 22, which I think there is a free trial or something like that on EA Game Pass or something along those lines. So
yeah, but John's gonna have his hand in a lot of titles now that he's in like kind of like the higher end area of the game industry, and he's at Electronic Arts, who has a massive amount of properties coming out, including some Star Wars stuff that I would love to check out when it does come out. So.
Exactly. Battlefield, one of my favorite properties, is coming out soon as well. But go check out Madden, everybody. Check out some of John R. Diaz's work. Check out the Out of Play Area podcast. Check out Madden NFL 22 and his handiwork at EA, because if anybody can improve Madden, I'm sure it's our boy John R. Diaz. Hook it up and make it better and improve Madden more and more each year now that he's involved. So,
someone seems positively cynical about Madden.
I am a little positively cynical about Madden. You know what? It's nothing against John. It's just the fact that there isn't any competition in that sport in terms of gaming, in terms of video gaming for like the official NFL license. I've never been a fan of that.
Yeah, but like, that you have to blame on the NFL, not the game company. NFL gave out the exclusive license. So
that's also true. That's also true. The game company has only to say yes to that. You can't really say no to that kind of.
I was going to say no to that. I was like, I don't want the exclusive deal. Give it to someone else.
NFL, let somebody else make an NFL game. That's all I'm saying. Competition.
Yeah, let other people play in the sandbox.
Yeah, but check out Madden NFL 22 because it's the only option right now, and it's a fun game, and John worked on it. All right. So let's jump into the convos for today. We're going to have a couple of kind of open-ended convos. The first one being not really a versus conversation, but more what it's going to be like when we're talking about different conflicts in terms of streaming services, getting new releases of first-run films, or movie theaters getting new releases of first run films. And we'll get to another conversation later, which is a little more of a conflict, and that's Martin Scorsese's comments about Marvel films, which we'll get to later. We'll get to the details
Yeah.
of that. First off, you saw a film in theaters recently, did you
Right.
not,
Yes.
Mr. Wolfie? What
Yes.
film did you see in theaters,
I
and how was
saw.
that experience?
No, I saw the Suicide Squad. Not to be confused with Suicide Squad.
Definitely not.
I thought it was awesome. I thought that I know that I missed the review with the cast, but
Hmm.
I thought that it was it was. I think that like part of it was maybe a little bit overhyped by the reviews and Rotten Tomato and all that stuff. This is why I hate
Hmm.
reading reviews before I see something, because I feel like my
Hmm.
opinion's already skewed, and I didn't get a chance to see it right away. Only because I wanted to see it in the theater, not to stream it. So actually, this is perfect for the conversation that we're gonna have, because I
Later
specifically
on. Hmm.
chose to wait like a week or even 2 weeks. I think it was just a week after it was released to see it in the
Hmm.
theater instead of seeing it at home.
Why did you
So
wait a week? Because we were definitely a part of that, like, group of people that would go
I
see
didn't I
like
didn't have
a
the
movie
time.
opening night. You just didn't
I
have the
didn't have the
time.
time.
Okay.
My life has been very, very hectic this year.
Hmm.
Ever since reopening the dojo martial arts school that I own. Um, Ever since reopening after the pandemic restrictions have been lifted, it's been a very, very busy time, especially with like all the new extra protocols that were taking place to keep everyone safe at the dojo. It's taking up a little bit
Hmm.
more time than maybe in the past, but I just did not have the time to see it. Usually, you know, the reason that we have like this podcast is because we're all, release midnight release viewers. So
Hmm.
yeah, but no, I didn't get a chance to see it until a week later.
How was it? I mean, when you're speaking about the dojo and in reopening that, you have to take a certain level of different restrictions or different precautions, we should say, because of COVID and things like that. How is that different, or how did that affect, or what happened, I guess, in the movie going experience when you went to go see the Suicide Squad in terms of COVID precautions and restrictions? And for
Um,
everybody's reference, we're in New York City, so it's probably pretty different everywhere else.
yeah, I mean, I don't think like as far as the theater goes, the specific theater that I went to didn't have any kind of restrictions in place actually.
Hmm.
Obviously
Okay.
it's reserved seating, so we had to like pick our seats, and then the seats surrounding us were blocked off. But to be fair, I think I've only gone to the theater one other time for Mortal Kombat.
Hmm.
People aren't really going to the theater. Like the
So
theaters are
people
empty.
still are staying away.
Yeah.
Generally, I
So
mean, Suicide Squad made a decent amount of money. What, the most
what were
recent
the
film
numbers
that
on
made a
that?
lot of money was Black Widow, right? That
Yeah,
was,
and I actually meant to see that in the theater. I just didn't have time to go, so I ended up streaming it. But I really wanted to see it in the theater instead of stream. And
well,
now I wish
it's,
I had seen it even more, considering the lawsuit taking place with Scarlett Johansson. So
yeah, exactly. I want to get to that in a moment, but I want to kind of describe, to give you that different perspective. It wasn't necessarily my perspective, but I saw the Suicide Squad as well, and I didn't get to be on the podcast episode where the crew reviewed it. And I heard that episode; it was a really, really fun episode. They all enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as well. I mean, I think the overhype thing is a solid point, because when you see like 99% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that, like a week before release,
it was a
obviously you know that's
hundred
going to be
percent.
not going to be the final. It was
It was a
100% at
hundred percent.
a couple of points, or for a while, right? I'm not really sure, but I saw that number, and you see
Yeah.
that, and that definitely is like, oh well, this movie's going to be fantastic. Not that it wasn't. It was really, really fun, really, really entertaining. The Suicide Squad, James Gunn's version, was way better than the 2016 version. I think we basically all agree on that point, at least. Um, but yeah, it's not like the greatest movie of all time. Like seeing 100% on Rotten Tomatoes might make you feel. But I saw it with some friends. So I recently took a trip down to Atlanta to do something fun. I'll just let it out there. I proposed to my girlfriend. I snuck down to Atlanta, and I proposed to her. She said yes.
What?
So
What?
that's fun news. I've been kind of on top of the moon about that. But on the way down to Atlanta, I stopped in Baltimore to visit a really really good friend of mine from high school, and another friend of mine from high school who lives in New York. We drove down separately, and the three of us we saw the Suicide Squad on HBO Max, which is the
Okay.
other way that people are basically consuming these kinds of films right now. And my two friends that I was with were definitely more of the mindset like they don't really care about the loss of the movie theater experience.
Really?
They're Yeah, I actually really really wanted to have one of them on the podcast today, but it was
That
to be
is so
frank, this
interesting.
was yeah, to be frank, this was like something we came up with as a topic relatively quickly, and it's actually my co-host on Positively Cynical, the other podcast that I do. He's definitely somebody that enjoys going to the movies, and I'll drag him to go see like the newest Marvel movie, every once in a
Yeah.
while because I'll see it like in theaters. I'll go see those movies two or three times if I have
Yeah.
time. I,
Yeah.
I love the experience. They're even repeating it. And he's kind of like, yeah, I only need to see a movie once. I don't really care to ever like see it again. And he's like, watching it at home is actually fine because and it's a fair point. You can like have your own food and like have your own stuff to drink, and you're comfortable on your own couch. You don't have to worry about dealing with other people or people talking through the movie. You can rewind it if like there's something that you miss. And like those are all relatively fair points. And the fact that on HBO Max and a service like that, you can rewatch it again and again. Another fair solid point, you can do it at least only for the cost of the service. But
True.
for me, I'll say really quickly as the counterpoint to them, and then I'll let you go ahead and give your counterpoint. I mean, I love the experience not just because of the big screen. The big screen is amazing. I love the camaraderie and the experience when you go see like a really fun movie that everybody's going to see and everybody's excited about. All the geeks are excited about it. I love everybody laughing and enjoying it and having fun. That's like part of the experience for me, which I guess also kind of ties to the conversation we're gonna have later. And I like movie theater popcorn. I like movie theater stuff. Soda. I don't really drink soda ever other than when I go to the movie theater. That's like when I'm like, all right, I'm going to enjoy a cherry Coke or something like that. So for me, that's why the experience is just it's visceral, it's fun, it's awesome, it's worth paying the extra money for and taking the time to go out to the theater to go check it out. So, what was the point that you were going to
Well,
make?
the my point is the point of the filmmakers, which is
Mm-hmm.
that the film was not meant for a small screen unless you have the movies aren't necessarily designed. The majority of movies aren't necessarily designed from a production standpoint to be solely for a small screen with subpar audio. And the truth is that the majority of viewers, vast majority of the viewers, do not have the suitable audio experience
Mm-hmm.
to properly experience the film. The other thing about it is that, like, especially the action movies, um, the experience is enhanced by having such a large screen, the
Yeah.
surround audio that you have, and the venue itself. Aside from the fact that, like, you're being forced to have no distractions. When you're at home, the doorbell rings, the phone rings, your kids wake up, the dog is barking, things like that. That takes away from the experience simply because the film isn't. You don't have your full attention being given to the film. And I think that for the very first time that you watch a film, I'm a big firm believer on first impressions, especially with media, that it should be where you give it its full attention. Because after that, once you've already experienced the film, you've already experienced the story,
Mm-hmm.
the performances on screen and everything, then you can repeat it at home and all that stuff and like nitpick or rewatch or re-enjoy it and stuff like that, but you'll never be able to enjoy it as good as you enjoyed the very first time. And that experience should be tailored to the performance and what you're seeing on screen. And I think that that's why it's like, again, aside from the fact that like the filmmaker designed the film for a specific visual and audio, and even a feel, experience. Um, I just I think it's wrong to stream it for your first viewing.
Uh, so there's a comment that immediately came to mind, and let me see if I can find the exact quote. I'm looking for it here. This is from Denis Villeneuve, I believe is how it's pronounced, the director of the upcoming
Of Dune.
Dune,
Yeah.
and of a bunch of wonderful films that a lot of us have enjoyed recently. I enjoyed Blade Runner 2049.
So did I. That's a
I
perfect
really
movie,
enjoyed it
actually. That movie, honestly, that's one of the few movies that I feel like can only be truly appreciated on a big screen.
because of the way the design of the cities and the design of the characters and the design of some of that, like some of the large advertisements and the large hologram of the woman, things like that, that were really really great on the screen. But Denis Villeneuve, he said, I'm going to paraphrase here because I just want to get to the point beyond this, but he says that watching Dune on a TV is like driving a speedboat in your bathtub. So
Yes. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
that's an
100%.
easy way to speak to what you're saying, right? And
Yes.
to what a lot of directors are saying. I think James Gunn said something similar about watching the Suicide Squad and asking people to go watch it in the theaters. Um, but yeah, so that's the point that a lot of people are making. And then you have the other perspective, which is you have something like we mentioned, Black Widow, which made a ton of money in theaters on its first weekend. And the argument is being made legally, even at this point, by Scarlett Johansson against Disney and Marvel. The argument is being made that legally, having the ability to pay $30 for however many people you want to watch it on Disney Plus or whatever it is, premium access as they called it, which I don't think
Yeah.
Shang-Chi had that, right? They removed that recently. So they're
Yeah, I
rethinking it as
believe so,
well.
yeah.
But the argument being made is that, paying that $30 is, and not having, say, with Scarlett Johansson's contract where it was some of her profit came from theater profits,
Yeah.
movie theater
Hmm.
profits, that it took money away from her. And I can imagine that only paying that $30 isn't just for Scarlett Johansson, right? That $30 for premium access on Disney Plus. It goes to the directors, it goes to everybody that worked on the film, indeed, right? So it is kind of taking away money from some of these films, uh, and from some
From
of
the
the people
people
that
that
worked
actually
on it.
did the work,
Yeah,
you know?
100%. So are you definitely going to see Dune in
Oh, I'm
theaters when it comes
100%
out?
going to see Dune. I've been waiting for Dune in a long time. I can show you,
Mm-hmm.
as a matter of fact, let me see if I can pull it up. Uh, where do I have it? You can keep speaking while I
I
look for
really
this.
want to go see Dune in theaters, and I feel like it's going to be in theaters near me in my neighborhood at a theater that's handling things safely. It's not a very big theater though. I'm kind of wanting to convince my now fiance, to go see Dune in theaters. But we'll see
Dune is one of
if
my
that ends up
favorite
being
books.
a thing.
This book, not just
Hmm.
because of how awesome it looks, but because of how
Uh huh.
awesome the book itself is. I've been
Yeah, it's an
waiting.
amazing
It's funny.
cover.
I saw Dune when I was a kid, but didn't really understand it. I was too young
It
to
was
to
the
really.
David Lynch did that version, right?
No, Villeneuve. He did
No,
himself.
he did the original version. I thought that
Yeah.
was it was a different director.
No, he did the original. He's
Oh,
redoing
okay,
his own movie.
okay, all right. So wow, interesting. Well, he's redoing
Yeah.
his own movie, and
So
apparently there's a part two coming out as well. So continue. Yeah, tell me more about how much you
right.
love that.
So I saw Dune and I didn't really understand it. Actually, to be honest with you, I didn't actually even like it, but I think I was too young to really understand it.
Hmm.
And but then I read the book. I think it was like when I first started kind of like getting into heavy reading and even some writing, like 10 years ago, and I picked it up. I also did not necessarily really enjoy reading the book because it's a difficult book to read in a sense.
Hmm.
Okay.
Especially when you're
But then when
young.
I finally picked it up for like the third or fourth, well, it wasn't that, it was 10 years ago. So like 27, 28. Um,
You're still
when
younger.
I picked up the book for a third time,
Hmm.
okay, I was still younger, yes. When I picked it up for a third time,
Yeah.
that moment I was like in the right mindset. I understood the book, and now I realize how amazing the book is. I see the trailer to Dune, and I
Hmm.
see some of the scenes perfectly and exactly described as they are in the book. So, not just some of the scenes, but
Okay.
some of the lines too. So, when I see just in the trailer how much work is being put to bring the story that's in the book to life, to literal life, why would you want to not experience that in the best, most amazing possible way? Why would you want to diminish it? Why would you get a double cheeseburger and then take out one of the patties? That makes
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
sense to me.
You remove something from the experience. But I think a part of it is also dependent on whether you're more of somebody who's a little extroverted or somebody who's a little more introverted. My friends who are more interested in the movie theater experience or less interested in the movie theater experience are like, I'd rather stay home and, hang out and have a couple of drinks and watch it on streaming services. But yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you for most of these big tentpole exciting films you've been waiting for, or like, I mean, most of these Marvel movies are also films you've been waiting for, because how long have you been waiting to see some of these characters on the screen?
And
Or,
and I can understand that too, you know. I can
just wanting
totally
to like
understand that.
wanting to be more like having the chance to rewatch it and like hang out at home and make your own food and like be lazy on your own couch and invite over whoever you want. That kind of it is understandable. It's just not I'm not a fan of it, and I want to go see Dune as well, and I definitely want to see the Eternals, which I've been talking about forever, and a new trailer just came out, which looked awesome. I, I want to go see
Mhm.
those movies in theaters, so I guess we're
It's
gonna
gonna take me a
see.
while to watch the trailer.
It's gonna take you a while to watch the trailer. You haven't seen the new Eternals trailer yet? Well, yeah, you don't watch trailers
Nah,
as
man.
much as
I
we
told you,
do.
man.
We try to spoil every,
I don't
not
do
spoil everything.
trailers, man. Not right away. Not right away. I I want to wait. I want to wait until like the hype has died down, and then I'll watch it. I don't want to like be part of the hype. Like I know they're saying if I see the trailer and then I notice all the things that everyone's hype about, then I'm gonna get super hype about it too. And I don't want that. I don't want to kind of skew my own, view of the trailer of the film and stuff. So
So are there just certain films? I mean, Dune would probably be one of them. You did say you saw the trailer, but are there certain films that you're just resigned to, like, I'm going to see this. I don't need to see really anything in terms of the acting or the art
oh
direction or
yeah,
the
absolutely.
design or anything. Like, I just want
Yeah,
to like
100%.
let it be terrible if it's terrible or amazing if it's amazing, and that's what you get basically.
All right, so the majority of like the Marvel films, I don't
Mm-hmm.
watch I'll watch the first trailer that comes out once, and
Mm-hmm.
then I'll never watch the trailer again. The Matrix, I will never watch the trailer to the Matrix, except for maybe the very first time I see it, just because I love the Matrix. But outside
Well,
of
the
that, I don't
first
need to see it
trailer
because I
didn't
already
tell you anything.
know.
Yeah. The first trailer was just asking the question, right? What is the Matrix or something like that? Though it didn't tell you anything. I mean,
Sure, yeah,
none
yeah,
of the trailers
exactly.
told you
But
much.
my thing is that I've already decided that I'm gonna see the movie when the movie if I've already decided that I'm gonna see the movie when it gets announced, I don't need to see a trailer. Like I wanna go in there as blind and naked as possible. I wanna be a newborn child seeing light for the first time. Okay. I wanna
Okay,
be
so
Neo being pulled out of the vat. Okay.
after having the
I
pill
want
and
to
doing the whole
have that
thing.
experience. Yeah, I wanna have that experience, you know?
Okay, so I'll end
versus
this part of the
versus
conversation.
versus the
Go
opposite
ahead.
hold on versus the opposite experience that Neo had, where he saw the trailer in the Matrix world, and then he actually sees the real world, and then he's disappointed.
The real world is terribly disappointing in the Matrix, I would imagine, but they chose to stay in the real world, and well, he chose to die, so I guess that's kind of telling in its own sense as well. Here's Here's a question I
Yeah.
want to ask, and I'll tell you how I did make this decision. How do you decide what you're going to see in theaters versus what you're going to wait for to watch on streaming or whatever other service, or purchasing it on some sort of service at home?
Okay.
For me, I'm kind of like you. I think most of the Marvel stuff, DC stuff, like the big action stuff, the stuff that looks great spectacle wise on a big screen that I know I'm going to be interested in after the first trailer, like that's when
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'm going to see this in the theater. That really changes unless, and then this is maybe me being a victim of reviews a little bit. If reviews are really, really awful, I might not go see it in the theaters. So yeah, I guess I'm weak in that way. Anything
Okay.
else, like, I watch a lot of the Oscar bait every year, and dramas, and things like that, comedies. Some horror movies I like to watch in the theater, but most horror movies generally I'll just watch that at home. I'll stream it, I'll buy it if it's something that I'm really interested in watching. How do you kind of come up with which movies you want to watch in the theaters?
So, all right. So, I don't. This is why I don't like to read reviews because I don't want to be
Hmm.
like persuaded to not see a movie if I already want. If I already am interested in seeing it, even if there's bad reviews out there, I'll still want to see it. But I don't
Hmm.
want to, since I know that I'm still going to want to see it in the theater, I don't want it to warp my perception because I know that I'm going to see it. If I already know that I'm going to see the movie in the theater, I don't want a review to try to change my mind. You know.
Right.
Now, when I hear things like word of mouth, like if I hear the crew say, "Man, this movie sucked. I didn't like it. It's crap." That's a little bit different. I mean, I'm still going to see it in the theater, but I'll kind of take your words in consideration because I know you. Like, we kind of have same likes and interests, right? Like, a reviewer, I
Hmm.
have no idea if we have the same taste. Like, there's plenty of movies that I love and enjoy that by all means have gotten that people want to strike from the history books of film.
Wonder
Um,
Woman 1984
I
is
didn't think it
probably
was that
one.
bad. I didn't think it was great. I thought
Yeah.
it was okay. I didn't think it was as bad as Walter says. But for
Wait,
example,
wait.
Street Fighter,
You
I
didn't get
love
to
Street Fighter.
you didn't get to see that in the theaters. Did Wonder Woman, right?
No, because Wonder Woman,
That was on
it went
streaming.
to the stream. It went straight to
Yeah.
stream. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Um,
That's right.
yeah, it came out in theaters afterwards, but it went straight to stream.
Hmm.
Um, I generally choose the movies that I see on screen based on the production value of the film. So, for example, a romantic comedy doesn't have much film production value. So,
Hmm.
that I can see at home because the experience isn't going to be um, enhanced by watching it in the theater, right? A romantic
Okay.
comedy is a date movie, one that, like, hey, let's go out and let's watch this together as part of a date, right? Versus a science drama. That's you can go watch that on a date. You can watch that on your own. You can watch that with the guys, or with the girls, whatever. But you're going there because you want to be razzled and dazzled. You want the lights. You want the booms. You want the vibration and everything. You want to see in an alien invasion a
Yeah.
300-foot ship coming at you. But if you see that at home for the first time, that's not a 300-foot ship. That's a 60-inch one.
Yeah.
You
It's a
know what I'm
few feet
saying?
wide. It's got a lot
Right.
less spectacle. It's not shaking your house
So for
for
me,
most
it's based
people.
on the production value. That's why, like, even a crappy movie can be okay if you see it in a theater if the experience is enhanced. So I
Did
base it
did
on that.
you did you ever watch what movie was it? Oh man, The New Mutants. Did you ever get to watch that in theaters?
No,
Or
no, I didn't.
because that
I
was
mean,
one that you
we all
made
saw
the
the
argument.
bootleg.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you made the argument that it would be a heck of a lot better in theaters,
Yeah,
and
it probably would have been.
I
It
haven't
probably
even
would have
like
been.
seen it again
I
in better
want to
quality.
rewatch it. I do want to rewatch it. I want to see the proper how it was intended to be seen.
I think I have to like at least give Maisie
You gotta
Williams
give
and
it a
like some other
shot. You
people,
gotta give it a
Anya
shot.
Taylor-Joy, some
Yeah.
actors that I enjoyed. I don't know how much money they get from me watching it on
I
Amazon
would
Prime since I
love
think
to
it's on there
know
now.
which one Walter hates the most, New Mutants or Wonder Woman 84.
We could probably do an episode about like recent movies that we've absolutely hated a lot,
Dude, we
and
could do an
see
episode of like
we could bring that one
versus.
out.
Yeah, versus
Wonder Woman
which one goes into the
versus
bin.
versus Suicide Squad. It could be like three-way matches in some of these episodes, and
Yeah,
be like,
some
oh, which
yeah.
one is like the more terrible
Oh yeah,
experience
that's a good
versus
idea.
Justice
We
League.
should do like another movie night. I think that we should all watch New Mutants together again.
I really, I think that would be a great idea because I really want to do an episode together again in the same
Oh
room,
yeah, I would
like
love to
since
do
we're
that. I
all
can't wait to do
vaccinated,
that. Yeah, can't wait to do
and
that.
hell, we got to like bring that up for like
Oh, that's right. Eli's
for the
vaccinated
conversation
now,
we're gonna
right?
have recently. Yeah,
Oh,
oh,
dude,
everybody is vaccinated.
we got to
Everybody's
do it.
vaccinated.
We totally got to
Maybe
do
for
it.
one of these, maybe for one of these movies that we're gonna try to go see in the near future in theaters, like a
Which one?
Dune or like an
Well,
Eternals.
Dune. Yeah, I
I
gotta
mean,
see Dune.
I want to go see both of those. So I
You know what?
will.
Eternals, we should definitely plan to see together.
Yeah.
And let's do like it'd be cool to do like the old school midnight review and record.
Yeah. We'll all be exhausted. It'll sound totally different from the episode that we're recording now, but it will be
No,
totally worth it
no, that's
because
not true.
excitement.
Remember, we like
Excitement.
every time we did like one of the Marvel movies and then went straight home to record. That was one of some of our best episodes. The Star Wars episode. Oh God, dude,
We also loaded up on caffeine a couple of those times. So,
that's
I
true.
mean,
But
I
it's
guess I got some
and
sleep.
yeah, and like a bunch of White Castle and pizza.
Oh, yeah. Back when we used to get pizza and food and all that stuff just before we recorded.
Chinese
Let's
food
bring that
too. Oh
tradition.
God,
Let's bring that
yeah,
tradition back
hell
one
yeah,
more time. That
absolutely.
theme park
I'm with
experience.
it. I'm super with it.
That that theme park experience, which ties into the rest of the conversation that we are going to have here, and that is Martin Scorsese and his feelings about our Marvel movies, our geek stuff. I mean, I think it's fairly clear, sort of, where we come on this argument, but let's talk about what Martin Scorsese said about Marvel films and cinema and the fact that he does not watch them, and then we'll talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. So
Uh,
what do you say?
according to Martin Scorsese, and I'm reading this from Variety.com, in an interview with Empire magazine. So Martin Scorsese gave the Marvel Cinematic Universe the cold shoulder, comparing the billion-dollar franchise to theme parks. Scorsese said, I don't see them. I tried, but that's not cinema. Honestly, the closest I can think of them, as well made as they are, with actors doing the best they can under the circumstances, is theme parks. It isn't the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to another human being. Yeah. So that's what Scorsese said about Marvel movies, and I guess movies right now in general. I do want to bring up just one bit of context, and then it sounds like you have an opinion to give about Scorsese's comments. Uh, Scorsese's most recent film, The Irishman, came out on another form of media that one would say destroyed at least a certain part of the film experience, and that's Netflix. Because let's
Yeah.
remember, Netflix destroyed Blockbuster Video and VHS rentals. Some of y'all are like, what the heck is a VHS? Blockbuster destroyed VHS rentals and DVD rentals and rentals of movies at a store of all kinds. So Scorsese, Wolfie, do you have any thoughts on his comment? And then maybe we'll broach some of the comments that people have made in response.
So so my thing is that I think that he comes from an era of I don't even want to say from an era. I think that like, people of his stature that have he's become well established as a as a profound and prolific filmmaker. So he has license to speak on the industry in a sense, right? Because he's
Mm-hmm.
created such masterpieces that people hold in reverence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that like his own pedestal warps his mindset of what filmmaking is. Because
Mm-hmm.
basically what he's saying is like the only filmmaking that's filmmaking is what I make. Is
Or
essentially what he's
thinks
saying,
of
and
himself.
and if you're not doing what I'm doing, he's not saying that he's the only one that does it, but what he is saying that like if you're not making what I'm making, then it's not a film because then what's a Pixar film? What's
Yeah.
Soul, right? What's
Mm-hmm.
any animated film? Is it not film? Like
Is Miyazaki
is
not moving
Miyazaki
and
not a movie?
emotional?
Is that not an art piece? You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Just because it's done like through computer graphics and CGI and no sets. Because his argument is that like they're acting in front of a green screen 90% of the time with all
Mm-hmm.
computer animated graphics and stuff like that. Are those then not films either? So I think that like he's speaking from atop a mountain where his sight and his viewpoint is only as far as his own feet. You know,
I think
because
it's interesting that you talk about the CGI. Oh, go ahead and continue
oh
your
no, I was
point,
just
but
gonna say that
I'm
like
gonna come back
it's
to that.
just to say that it's a theme park. I don't know who would want to go on the Joker ride.
Yeah, the most recent Joker film you're talking about, the one that
That's not yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix is in.
that's not a theme park. You know, he's talking about
Mhm.
like you know characters looking within themselves. Like, come on, that's not you can't say that that's not a film. You just can't. Period.
I mean, we definitely all enjoy all kinds of film, including campy stuff, including like weird and silly and dumb. Somebody can say quote unquote dumb
Yeah.
stuff. Part of the argument, there's two parts of the argument that I think that he makes that don't make a lot of sense to me. And when he talks about like, say, something like CGI, things like that that make it the theme park experience, or he complains about how they're standing in front of a green screen, I think is what you had mentioned.
Yeah.
uh that doesn't really make sense to me when like some of his most recent films like The Irishman were heavy on CGI to like make all the
Yeah.
actors way younger, right? CGI has its place. CGI is useful, and shows like The Mandalorian are changing how CGI shows are made also with the way that they use Epic Games software to kind of
Yeah.
project sets and create these actual physical, again, quote unquote, sets that the actors can interact with, and like even have sometimes like visual CGI stand-ins for like creatures that they're interacting with or
Right.
things like that. The other part of the argument that like kind of is odd to me coming from him is that he comes from, so you're speaking about the era that he comes from. He comes from the same era as directors like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. And I gotta wonder, like, what is it about movies like Jaws, right? Why is Jaws not a theme park spectacle when, in fact, there is a
There's a
Jaws
theme park.
ride
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
that's
Jurassic
based on
Park,
the movie?
Indiana Jones, all those things.
Yeah, where's the line get drawn? Like, is Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park, which a lot of people think is a movie with wonderful heart, it's all freaking CGI. There's like
Yeah.
almost nothing that's real in that movie, even including a lot of the sets. Like, does that movie not qualify as film? And you're right. Like, it kind of is like, where does someone draw the line in terms of like, is just what I make film, or is uh, everything film depending on some other criteria? I guess.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think that I think that this was honestly more of a knee jerk reaction to maybe even Scorsese's films not being the centerpiece anymore. Like for example, whenever Scorsese made a film when it was going to come out, it's the talk of the town. It's nothing else matters. But in
Mm-hmm.
this day and age with media, with social media, how the speed of news and the Disney machine,
Mm-hmm.
a Scorsese film is going to be talked about for one day, and then everyone else is going to talk about the MCU timeline for the next 2 years. So it might just be more of a knee jerk reaction of like, I'm not being spoken about. My films aren't being talked about because of, this huge universe of films that are being made. So it's more of a like, well, that stuff over there is just spectacle in the theme park. So I think he's looking at it from that standpoint. And that's just spectacle and theme park. And that's what's pulling in all the viewers, but the real cinephiles are going to
Mm-hmm.
turn a blind eye to that. He's trying to kind of control a certain narrative. But it's just, and the thing is, there is an argument to be made there. I do think that, and maybe this is like a whole separate conversation. I do think that like the MCU, the cinematic universes as a whole can be too saturated, can kind of kill an industry a little too
Mm-hmm.
much. It's like Walmart coming into this neighborhood and killing all the mom and pop shops.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
anything like that, and I think that is kind of what's happening, you know.
It's it's an interesting conversation too, and I was going to come out and defend Scorsese a little bit too, try to hit the other side of the argument, because it's very true that Marvel movies kind of make all the money in terms of movie theaters. But doesn't that kind of go back to the conversation that we were having earlier? Because now the way that people consume a lot of these sort of, for lack of a better term, let's call them art house like film, quote unquote, in the way that Scorsese intends the term. A lot, the way that people
Yeah,
consume that stuff and the way that money gets made is through streaming services now. That's where you get a lot of indie releases. That's where you got The Irishman. That's where you get a lot of films that are not the big spectacle theme park films that Scorsese is talking about. But it's true. He's kind of right, because I won't go see most Scorsese films or art house films or anything like that in the theater. There's exceptions. I saw, Boyhood. I saw There Will Be Blood, and
yeah,
movies like that. Those are not that recent, even though, like, I can't think of one that I've seen recently. But to his point, it is kind of true that he's he's being pushed towards those streaming services, and we don't know how like the revenue kind of gets shared there, which you said it becomes something of a threat to the how much money he's making. It becomes something of a threat maybe in terms of awards, because it's kind of unclear. How it was unclear for a bit, like whether Netflix films qualified for the Oscars. Now they do. But maybe because all of those conversations and all of that sorting had to occur, that was like kind of a part of his point. And when Marvel films come out and they're making several $1 billion each one, like is making close to $1 billion, $3 billion. I mean, we are, and kind of a lot of people are saving our money to go to the theater to go see the most recent MCU movie, the most recent
right.
DCEU movie, the most recent like big budget release. Um, but I mean, is Dune not going to be a piece of art? We're still going to watch that in the theater because it mixes
Yeah,
spectacle and
yeah.
theme park
It's still
with
spectacle.
story.
I mean, the thing is, look, even the Irishman is still spectacle. Like the fact that you're seeing Al Pacino, Joe Pesci, and Robert De Niro on screen is a spectacle in itself.
It's a
So it's
gimmick in
you
a
could,
way, yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So like, there's a reason why he had those three and not just like three other Italian guys,
Hmm.
on the screen. It's because he wants the spectacle of it to draw the people. So it's like kind of like even hypocritical in a way to call one thing a spectacle in a theme park and not yours. You know, like yes, of course, Joe Pesci, Al Pacino, and Robert De Niro, great actors, meritorious actors, and
Hmm.
it would be absolutely amazing to see them on screen all the time. But it's because of who they are, and because it's a trio on screen. Like nobody saw The Irishman just because it was Martin Scorsese or Robert De Niro. I saw The Irishman because it was Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. That's
Yeah.
it. I didn't personally think that movie was that great.
Neither did I,
You
actually, to
know,
be frank with you. I fell asleep the first time I was watching it because it
so did
was
I.
so
Right?
long. It was
Yes, it
great.
was.
Joe
I have to
Pesci
see it
was
in
fantastic.
parts. Joe Pesci was
Yeah.
he. I think it was his best role ever. To be honest with you,
Yeah. he was deserving of being nominated.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a spectacle piece. I saw that because of the names attached to it, not because of the premise of the film. You know,
That's true. I had never heard of the titular Irishman before this movie was
so
announced, and before I found out that those three actors that Scorsese had worked with to great
yeah,
effect in movies like Goodfellas
yeah,
and things. Goodfellas is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's Scorsese. Let's give a little reverence to the man. Like you said earlier, he's an amazing director. He's made some amazing films. But yeah, like I came back to it because I was like, oh yeah, I want to see
yeah.
the Avengers of Martin Scorsese get back
Yes,
together
exactly.
again. It's
That's
like,
his Avengers. That's his Avengers. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So,
absolutely, 100%. So
but the thing
it's
is
true.
that, like, from the Marvel thing, it's that the one thing that can make it a theme park, it's the fact that, and maybe he didn't articulate this way or even mean to, but what I think makes the MCU specifically a theme park in a way, it's that their movies have a specific formula that hit all categories. If you want a romantic comedy, you can watch an MCU film. If you want a comedy in itself, watch any MCU film. You want drama, watch any MCU film. You want superhero, watch any MCU film. You want childhood inspiration, watch any MCU film.
Hmm.
So if you have, for example, you have Guardians of the Galaxy comes out, and then you have a comedy film come out, and then you have like a romantic comedy come out, and then you have like a kids film come out, all at the same time. Guardians of the Galaxy hit it for all those people. So now, if you think about, let's say, four different people that can only afford one movie ticket, each four of them are from each different category: romance, action, comedy, and kids. They can only buy one movie ticket. Guardians of the
Hmm.
Galaxy hits all four of them. And
That's
that
true.
is how
And
they're taking the market share away. That's actually one of the reasons why the comedy film industry has been tanking, is because MCU movies are so funny, they actually take away from comedy film releases.
unless you're The Rock or Tiffany Haddish, I don't know. There's like a couple of people that are still a draw in like comedy
I mean,
films. Kevin Hart, I guess,
The Rock is a draw no matter what. You know what I mean?
and he's also an action
And
star
some
in
of,
these films too, right?
yeah, for sure.
So
You
he's
know,
like his own MCU.
he's different. You know, he's a different beast, but the same animal.
You know, and also let's give it. Well, I'll give a few quotes from what some people thought of his comments in a moment, but I kind of want to close out our thoughts on it with this point in support of Scorsese in
Hmm.
terms of the theme park experience, because when you go to a theme park, it's definitely, you're expecting certain beats to be hit, right? Just like the MCU, like you said, it hits the comedy, it hits the action, it hits the family stuff, it hits the drama, and that's why we enjoy comic books, right? Because we love the action and stuff like that. We love the comedic moments and those weird moments between characters. But you know, what was like, I guess the point that I was going to make at is, at the same time, I was going to make this point, actually I think I made this point during the Loki episode. um the Loki episode was or the Loki episodes, the most middle, or sent the third episode, I think, was the one basically where I made this point, or wanted to make this point. um that episode was where they had to like shoehorn in the action scenes, right? Like, and we love action scenes. We
Yeah,
love stuff like that.
yeah,
But that wasn't very good action. It wasn't like really, really like, oh, this action scene needs to be in there to either tell you something about the character, which is why we love action scenes sometimes also, right? Because they're character moments. They can be. Didn't tell you anything about Loki or Sylvie when they started beating people up. And it wasn't like really cool, like amazing action that we can say like, okay, that was like a really cool 5 minutes of Loki like kicking butt and Sylvie doing crazy flips and crazy stuff like that. Like, that would be more justifiable. But instead, they still have to squeeze those moments in, and they had to maybe
yeah.
sometimes squeeze the romantic moments in, like you said, the romantic comedy stuff. although the Sylvie and Loki stuff was more interesting in the way that they squeezed in that romance, they kind of do
Yeah.
that sometimes when they don't need to as well. Like they would make Black Widow like a weird romantic interest for the Hulk or something like that. Like that never panned out. Like
Yeah,
that
that's
never
true.
panned out into anything really. They were just some moments. But yeah, I mean that's definitely like something that I would say is in defense of what Scorsese is saying here.
In a way,
So
in a way, but I still don't think that I don't necessarily that it does in general defend Scorsese. I think that there's some truth to what he's saying, but not for the reasons that he is saying it. You know, that's
it's
ultimately
what
what I.
it's what audiences want too, right? Audiences want movies to hit all those beats. That's why people
Yeah,
enjoy these
I
Marvel
mean,
movies. Other than the fact that it's some of their favorite characters. That's more what it is for us. It's some of our favorite characters growing up in comics and things like that. But it is a fun way to hit all of the emotional beats that you want to hit, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So let's give a couple of comments and then we're going to close out. I'll give a couple of comments that some MCU actors have given in defense, and some MCU involved people have given in defense of
Hmm.
this. Um, Here's one by Mr. Chadwick Boseman, who respect
The late,
is in the more
the late.
the, the late Chadwick Boseman, who's amazing in the most recent episodes of What If, which we're definitely going to talk about soon. What If has been, I think it's been fun, but we'll definitely have a conversation about that. But Boseman said that he respects the famed director, who is a genius at what he does, but he said that Scorsese missed a lot of the feelings fans felt after watching the Ryan Coogler drama. He's talking about Black Panther here. We felt that angst. We felt that thing you would feel from cinema when we watched it. That's cultural. Maybe it's generational. Um, and Bozeman also added, you've got to think about when he's saying it. And this was kind of to some points that you made, I think. He's saying it when he's possibly campaigning for an award. He's saying it at a time when he's making a Netflix movie. So that's how eyes get on his film. And it's not going to be in the cinemas. It's not going to be seen the best way. The best
Yeah,
way is kind of
yeah,
interesting that he says that as well. Right?
yeah.
Excuse me. So these are Scarlett Johansson's comments. And I think there's one from Kevin Feige I want to point out really quickly, and then let's go to Scorsese's camp. Scarlett Johansson said, "At first, I thought that seems kind of old-fashioned, and somebody had to explain to me because it seems so disappointing and sad in a way."
Very.
They said, "I think that what these people are saying is that at the actual theater, there's not a lot of room for different kinds of movies or smaller movies because the theater is taken up by huge blockbusters." Let's see where Feige. Oh, excuse me. I'm getting got something stuck in my throat as well
I think I
at the
transferred
moment.
something over to you through the mic.
Yeah.
Through the mic that I.
Excuse me. Kevin Feige. So he said this. Maybe it's easy to dismiss VFX or flying people or spaceships or billion-dollar grosses. I think it is easy to say that you have already been awarded in a certain way. Alfred Hitchcock never won Best Director, so it's very nice, but it doesn't mean everything. I would much rather be in a room full of engaged fans. So for
Oh
Kevin
man,
Feige, which is probably why he makes these films, it's about the experience, which it is
it's about the
very much
fans.
on. Yeah, that's very much what it is on our side as well. So let's go and end. Pardon me. Let's go and end with some people in defense of Scorsese.
I would love to know who defended him.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. This is gonna take a. See, even my computer's getting a bug here. It's taking a
Do
little
you
bit of
even have
time
anybody defending it?
to load. Bong Joon-ho.
Okay, that sounds familiar. Isn't
Bong
that the guy
Joon-ho.
from?
He is Parasite, the
Yeah, Parasite. Yeah.
Oscar-winning film Parasite, who's also created films, I believe, like
Man, there's already bias there. He sees himself as the Korean Scorsese.
but he also did that film Snowpiercer, which was, you could
Yeah, I
define
still
that
need to
as
see that. I
spectacle.
still need to see that. That's been like that
It's
one is
fantastic.
yeah, that's what I keep hearing.
It's a fantastic film. There's a show that I haven't seen right now, but so here's Bong Joon-ho. I have a personal problem. I respect the creativity that goes into superhero films, but in real life and in movies, I can't stand people wearing tight-fitting clothes. I'll never wear something like that, and just seeing someone in tight clothes is mentally difficult. I don't know where to look, and I feel suffocated. Most
Oh my
superheroes wear tight
god.
suits, so I can never direct one. I don't think anyone will offer the project to me either. If there's a superhero who has a very boxy costume, maybe I can try. So that's his
That almost
comment
sounded a
on
little
that.
bit tongue in cheek.
It did. It did. Let's see. Wait. It was pointed out to Bong that he'd already worked with Captain America himself, Chris Evans, on Snowpiercer. This is from Esquire.com. The director suggested that his instincts weren't quite lined up with what the comic book studio would really be after. Chris Evans slips on a fish, he said. I don't think that is Marvel's sensibility. Don't know what that means, but uh, here is Francis Ford Coppola.
Okay,
And
still
Coppola comes
alive?
out heavy. He swings heavy. I believe that he is still alive. At least he was when these comments came out, that Scorsese had mentioned. Let's see here. So this is from Esquire.com. Legendary auteur behind the Godfather trilogy and Apocalypse Now came out in support of his longtime friend and went a few steps further in his condemnation of the MCU. When Martin Scorsese says that the Marvel pictures are not cinema, he's right, because we expect to learn something from cinema. We expect to gain something, some enlightenment, some knowledge, some inspiration. I don't know that anyone gets anything out of seeing the same movie over and over again.
Wow,
Martin was
really?
kind when he said it's not cinema. He didn't say it's despicable, which I just say it is. So,
Wow. Well, Francis Ford Coppola hasn't been relevant for a long time. Someone should send them a copy of Black Panther.
a copy of Black Panther or a copy of something like
The Joker, the copy of the
even Guardians of the
Avengers, the copy.
Galaxy
Come
is a
on, bro.
fun
Like, not inspiring
family
anything.
drama. Like Captain America with the Winter Soldier, which is a spy drama, like that really,
Iron
really takes
Man.
from 70s spy dramas. You know what I mean?
So
Like,
you're gonna tell me that the transformation of Tony Stark going from like a self-centered a-hole to the man with a sense of purpose to save all humanity by sacrificing himself, basically Marvel's Jesus?
yeah, I mean, I think that that's something that maybe he doesn't see that we think is wonderful, because the storytelling in between all of those movies, which is how Feige is doing it, yeah, there's a story in each movie, and yes, it does get sidetracked sometimes by Marvel having to hit certain beats, but at the same time, the storytelling throughout 20 movies, the way that they are able to put plot threads throughout that many films and have it make sense is an achievement of film and cinema, in my opinion, and
Yeah,
I
but
think in the
it's also
opinion of the
it's
entire
also
group.
the comic book world. It's also how comics go. So like I understand if you're just not a fan of comic book stories, but you can't say that comic book stories are not real stories.
I mean, I wonder what he would think of something like Watchmen, like a story like that,
Oh
which
my
has
God,
been
that
made
one right
into
there.
a
That's like one of the most perfect examples of like one of the most perfect early examples of comic book films and superhero films. I don't even want to call them superhero films. They're like comic book films. Okay.
somebody needs to just hand him
Of
a
a com-
comic, maybe not
Yeah,
just
maybe.
make him watch these movies. Maybe he'll
Watchmen is a
make
perfect comic. Yeah.
imagine he picks up like something like Watchmen and he watches the Zack Snyder film and he's like, I could do that better. We get like Martin Scorsese's Watchmen. Oh my lord! Here's
God.
two more peeps that we enjoy, actually, that come out in defense of Mr. Marty Scorsese. Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott is a very, very popular director that we've enjoyed. According to him, when asked if he would ever take on a superhero property, the Blade Runner director told Digital Spy that he wants to keep making smart films instead. Superhero movies are not my kind of thing. That's not why I've never really done one, he said. I've been asked several times, but I can't believe in the thin, gossamer tightrope of the non-reality of the situation of the superhero, which Watchmen tackles. I'll say that. That's not what
Okay.
Ridley Scott said. I'll say that. And David Cronenberg, who is a very, very
The
popular director as well.
non-reality of the superhero. So then what's Blade Runner?
I mean, right? Aren't all films supposed to be non-reality? I digress because we're going to try to wrap up this conversation. Again, you guys, I mean, the whole
You're making me hate
audience
some of my
listening.
favorite. You're making me hate some of my favorite directors.
I'm not trying to do that, but I just want to give everybody's perspective, man. And I don't want everybody to just hate Marty Scorsese too, because there's some other people who came out in defense of his vile comments. You want to call it despicable? Francis Ford Coppola. I call Marty Scorsese's comments vile, but I'll leave it at that. And then we'll leave it with David Cronenberg, who said a superhero movie by definition, it's comic book. It's for kids. It's adolescent in its core. That has always been its appeal. And I think people who are saying that Dark Knight Rises is, supreme cinema art, I don't think they know what the F they're talking about. I think it's still Batman running around in a stupid cape. Christopher Nolan's best movie is Memento, and that is an interesting movie. I don't think his Batman movies are half as interesting, though they're 20 million times the expense. What he is doing is some very interesting technical stuff, which, he's shooting IMAX and in 3D. That's really tricky and difficult to do. I read about it in American Cinematography magazine, and technically that's all very interesting. The movies, to me, they're mostly boring. So that's David Cronenberg's take.
Because they're just for kids. Okay.
Yeah. I'll rebut, obviously, Watchmen, again, stuff like The Walking Dead, stuff like Invincible, but also the fact that somebody is shooting in IMAX and in 3D. It's a new technology that's actually pretty awesome. And you know what? That is filmmaking. It's very interesting when we watch certain films in IMAX. And
some of these people need to explain to them that somebody needs to explain to them that comic books aren't just for children. And the comic books are, if you want to talk about smart anything, read X-Men. And the fact that it's a comic book series that's meant to start and enhance the dialogue against, any kind of phobias in society.
It's always
homophobia, transphobia, all that stuff. It's about societal acceptance. But no, this is just for kids.
It's topical. Stuff like X-Men is usually topical, right?
Because I think that they think they're comparing the superhero genre to Archie comics.
The golden age of superheroes, I think, is where they're stuck. Because when they were kids, sure, Superman wasn't really tackling social problems. Maybe a little bit, maybe some Nazis or something like that.
Right, absolutely.
It was mostly for the war effort or propaganda.
Yeah, they probably never read about Batman, walking a tightrope between madness and almost killing the Joker, and having to deal with that mental struggle himself.
Yeah. So I hope maybe somebody needs to put a comic in front of all these gentlemen.
Yeah.
These older gentlemen in most cases. It's probably semi-generational, but comic books are awesome. If y'all had just hung out with Stan Lee a couple of times and listened to the man speak, or Jack Kirby, some of these greats who created these incredible characters, maybe y'all would have a different perspective. But I guess that's how y'all feel right now, and we can't do anything about that. So we're going to keep supporting Marvel. We want to definitely check out the Shang-Chi film and the Eternals film, and we want to support Denis Villeneuve, even though he's mad about Marvel movies, by watching your film in theaters as well, which is going to be a spectacle. So take that, Denis Villeneuve. We love you and we hate you right now. With that note, I think it's time to wrap this episode up. I think we had a really, really good conversation. We talked for over an hour, and we gave some great opinions, and we talked about some other people's opinions on Marvel as spectacle. Are Marvel movies a theme park? We don't think so. Marty Scorsese does. And y'all, we're excited to go back to the theaters. Get Geekers out there. Let us know what y'all think. Are you going back to see a specific movie in theaters? Are y'all just going back to theaters to watch films again? Are you excited about that now that you're hopefully vaccinated or wearing a mask and being responsible? Let us know. Hit us up in the DMs. Slide into our DMs at Get Geek Podcast and elsewhere. And as our last quick reminder, that is one of the best ways, of course, that you can support your favorite podcast by giving us feedback, either on our DMs, put comments on our social media at Get Geek Podcast, anywhere you can find us on social media, and like, rate, share, and subscribe to our podcast. Comment on Apple Podcasts. Rate us on Apple Podcasts. That's the best way to support your favorite podcast crew. And with that, I guess that's, again, all there is to say today, other than, well, stay geeky, my friends. Peace out to y'all.